For too many years, the Las Vegas Raiders have been without an interior pass rush, but with this one draft pick, the fortunes of the Raiders defense could change for the next decade. All that and more on today's episode of the Raider D Podcast. Remember back in the defensive heyday of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, there was one guy who truly stood out by the name of Warren Sapp. Stood at 6'2" and 300 pounds, this dude was an absolute monster at getting to the quarterback as a defensive tackle. He had the nastiest swim move of any defensive tackle in the history of the NFL, and an unrelenting motor that drove him all the way to QBs over and over and over again, just racking up over 90 sacks in his career. Fast forward to 2024, and we have a guy coming out of the draft who stands exactly the same height and weight and has just as nasty of a swim move as the great Warren Sapp. I'm talking about one JER'Zhan Johnny Newton, the defensive tackle who plays both the 3 and the 5 technique for the University of Illinois. He was not on a great team, didn't win a championship, but one thing that JER'Zhan Newton has done since his 4 years in college is steadily progress year after year after year, and he had a banner year in 2023 with 52 tackles, 7.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and a forced fumble recovery. This dude is an absolute monster coming out of college. He has a nasty swim move. He's great with his hands. He has an amazing burst off of the snap, beating just about any guard or tackle that opposes him. JER'Zhan Newton fits the new style of NFL play. Long gone are the defensive tackles who are just there to defend against the run. Now, with a pass-heavy NFL and running backs being relegated to second-class citizens, you have to have a defensive tackle that can get to the quarterback and be disruptive in the backfield. Otherwise, these quarterbacks today will simply pick apart your defensive secondary and you will lose game after game after game. This has been one of the biggest downfalls for the Raiders, and this year we have the possibility of actually rectifying that situation. Now, there are a couple of different ways that the Raiders can go about doing this. Number one is that they can go out into the very defensive friendly free agency this year with potentially a Chris Jones, a Christian Wilkins, and a Justin Madubuike. If these players hit the free market, the Raiders absolutely need to do everything they can to solidify that position through a veteran Pro Bowl caliber defensive tackle. One of the other things that they can do, and this is something that the Raiders could pivot on with all of the hype that's going about the Raiders moving up to get Jaden Daniels, which I'm very high on, they could make a pivot here, and Antonio Pierce has signaled that they may do just that in order to get competition for AOC, and that is hit the free agency for a QB. If they did that, they could go after one veteran quarterback named Kirk Cousins, who will be a free agent, and they bring him in. He is a good starting quarterback in the NFL, has a long history that could solidify the QB position for the 2024 season, giving Tom Telesco the ability to go out and do what he does best, which is draft quality future players. And that starts in the trenches. There are a couple of ways that he could end up going. He could end up with right tackles J.C. Latham or Talisi Fuaga. And if JER'Zhan Newton lands in our lap at pick number 13, best believe the Raiders have to take a very serious look at him, and most draft analysts now are predicting that JER'Zhan Newton will be wearing the silver and black in the 2024 season.